Hey guys, Boz here. So I wanted to do a video about Linux. I've done a few of these in the past, but I run Linux a lot on servers, and I do like to run it on my desktop. I use it especially for development. I just find that Linux is such a better environment to doing development. In a lot of cases, even if it's Windows development, I really, really enjoy Linux. So this is my main desktop system. If you've ever watched my streams, you've seen the 3 monitors. This is my main system. What I normally, when I boot into Windows, what normally happens is once I boot into Windows, I select one of 2 accounts, either my my work account or my play account. And that play account's where I play games, I stream and stuff. That way I keep anything work related away from being shown on stream. Now, I mentioned how it boots into Windows by default. When I started messing with Linux, I would always have, or using Linux, I would always have a second drive inside maybe that had Linux on it, a second SSD or something. But with the speed increases of a lot of the USB-C SSDs and even Thunderbolt SSDs, I've decided to kind of start using those because then it keeps it very, very portable and I can move it from system to system, be it on my desktop or to my laptop. So what I do now is this Kubuntu that you see installed, which is right here. I went to their site. Now, I didn't download 18.10, the latest version, because it's not the long-term support version. If we go to the download, you can see 18.10. Here's the latest. They don't have a 32-bit version anymore, which I wouldn't want anyway, but some people do need on older systems. But I'm using the 1804 LTS, which means long-term support. So this one has updates until 2021. This one only has guaranteed updates till 2019. So I needed the 1804 version mainly too because it had a lot better support for a few things I needed to run, whereas some of the things here were newer versions that I was going to have some compatibility problems. So I stuck with 1804. But I downloaded the 64-bit version. Once I downloaded that, I took a USB stick, not my SSD, the USB-C SSD. I took a USB stick. I think it was a 4 gigabyte Corsair stick or something like that. I can't remember. And I took the image, I ran this etcher program, which is now called Balena Etcher. I'll have links to all this stuff in the description of the video. I ran this program, selected the image that I downloaded from Kubuntu. I selected the drive, which was my USB memory stick, and then I hit flash. And it writes the installer for Kubuntu, and it's also a live CD /installer. So I wrote that to the USB stick, and then I plugged it into my USB port on the front of my PC. I rebooted my computer, and then I hit whatever key I needed to be able to select what I wanted to boot from. In my case, it's F11. You hit that when the computer's first powering up before Windows starts to load. And then I selected my USB stick, and boom, I was inside the Kubuntu live CD /installer. Now, you can use those just if you want to see if Linux will work on your hardware. I mean, I knew it was going to work, but I used it, and then I ran the installer. I'm not going to go through how to install it. But basically, once installed, this is what I had. Now, I didn't have all these programs installed, but I mean, I had a running system. I started to customize it by desktop changes, the backgrounds, and installing my software. Now, you can see I installed Chrome. It comes with Firefox, but I prefer Chrome, but I do use Firefox some too. The file manager Dolphin and the console terminal are built in. I did install Atom, which is a text editor. IntelliJ for doing Java development. I've been looking at Visual Studio Code because I use Visual Studio on the Windows side. This is just an editor on the Linux, but it is a very nice editor. But I've been kind of using Atom for so long. Steam, which is very cool, and you can see Steam's over here. And of course Discord, and again Discord's here. They work just like they do on Windows. We'll get into the gaming and the limitations though in a little bit. And OBS, which you guys may know, great program for streaming, recording, that kind of stuff. I'm using it. You can see it's running right now. This is what's recording me for this video. I also installed Kde, which is a free game engine. Slicer, the Prusa edition, which is good for 3D printers for slicing your STL files to print, because I have some 3D printers. Kdenlive, which is basically a video editor like Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro. Obviously not as feature-ridden, but it is free. And then the Arduino IDE, which is a development environment for Arduino processors. This stuff is all 100% free. Now, obviously, you got to buy your Steam games in some cases. There are free Steam games. And these programs can all be run, even Kdenlive can be run on Windows. So even if you don't want to move to Linux, which I wouldn't encourage anyone to do unless they really did the research and it felt good for what they wanted, you can run a lot of these programs for free and you're not pirating or anything. So, I mean, that's kind of the system. Now, when I did my install, like I said, I installed it to my external USB-C SSD, and I'll show you a picture of it, and I'll have a link in the description for those who might be interested. Be aware this is a USB-C one. It does have an adapter if you want to use it on a USB 3 port, and it'll be decent. But I installed everything Linux-wise, in this case Kubuntu, to that SSD, and I did not modify any bootloaders or anything on my internal drives. I did everything on this external drive, so that way nothing was touched. Now, by default, when I turn on my computer, Windows boots. If I want to boot into this Linux system, I hit F11 when the computer's turning on, and then I select my SSD, the external one, the USB-C one, and then I pick Ubuntu, and it boots right up. And it boots up very, very fast. So I'm in here, and I'm good to go. Now, one of the things that's really nice about Linux, Kubuntu, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, you name the variations out there, is software. The software center here, which is part of Kubuntu, you can tell, like say I wanted to install a webcam program. You can just search for webcam and it'll give you a list of a bunch of ones, and all you have to do is click install and it installs it. So I use this to install Chrome, the Atom Editor, IntelliJ, Visual Code, Visual Studio Code, Steam, Discord, OBS, you name it, you can pick it through here. One of the benefits of that is when it is time to update your Kubuntu system or your Ubuntu or whatever, it will allow you to update everything through this one interface. You don't have to, like when you run OBS, say, oh, there's a new version, and then OBS downloads it. Oh, there's a new version of your image editor. Oh, there's a new version of Kdenlive. And there's updates to Linux itself, your operating system. It'll do it all in one big shebang, and it won't force it on you. You might get a pop-up when you're at the desktop that says, hey, there's updates, but you don't have to do them. It won't do them automatically and waste your resources and your internet, and then start installing them and reboot your computer on you while you're playing a game like Windows has been known to do. And it's done it to me before on stream. I've been streaming and my computer just rebooted because of an update. So that's a really nice feature. But I mean, just to look at some of the programs, I mean, I've installed some stuff. If we go up here to the applications, I mean, I installed development stuff. I mean, you saw me talk about the Atom text editor. I put in a Bless hex editor. The two other ones we talked about. Let's just go back. For games, I've installed Chromium, which is kind of a little shooter, Frozen Bubble, Super Tux, which is like Super Mario. I put in a Mahjong for cloud. Card games, there's a couple solitaire games. A strategy game, Pengus, which is like the old Lemmings. And then just Tron's kind of like Tron, but it's in a 3D mode, light cycles. DOSBox Emulator, if I'm going to run some old DOS stuff. And you can see here, good old Minecraft. Here's the launcher. Let me hit play, and you can see, if you've bought Minecraft, this is the latest version as of this video. And you see I have not used it, but it works fine. I actually have used it to connect to some servers I've been testing for some stuff that you guys may or may not have found. And then just kind of going back, that was games. For graphics, I installed FreeCAD, the GIMP, Inkscape. These other ones were all by default installed. It installs LibreOffice, which is a Office clone. For internet, you can see we've got Discord I installed. Firefox was already installed. Google Chrome. I don't care about the mail programs. I use web-based mail. I installed QBitTorrent, which is the torrent client I use for downloading Linux. Steam. Multimedia-wise, Audacity I installed. OBS Studio, VLC. I think VLC might have been installed by default. And there's all kinds of different stuff, but lots of great utilities. One of the coolest features about KDE that I like is they got a program called Kde Connect. And if you click it, I installed their app on my phone, my Samsung Galaxy, and it shows what charging my phone is at. If I lose my phone, I can hit this. And you can hear it made my phone ring. And you can actually also access your phone and copy files to and from it. And I'm not connected. The phone's just connected over Wi-Fi right now. It's plugged into a charger, but it's not plugged into my computer. So that's really cool. But one of the best things about it is it handles your alerts. So like if say somebody sends a Discord message that pops an alert up on my phone, if I have such a feature turned on, it'll pop up here also. So any alerts that pop up on your phone will pop up here. What's really cool is I could be working on something, maybe coding something here, and my wife might text me on her phone to my phone and say, hey, I got to stop at the store, or I want to do this or that. And it'll pop up here. I don't have to even touch my phone. I can handle it, respond or whatever. And I never have to worry about touching my phone. A really cool feature. Great for like websites that use two-factor authentication but still require you to not use an authenticator app but use your phone to text a code to. I can be here on the website, say for that website, tell it send me a code. It sends it to my phone. It pops up right here. I see the code number and then I just type it in. I never have to look at my phone. Really cool feature. I think Microsoft might have some version of that for Android also, but I think Kde Connect works with iOS also. So those are all really cool. So here's a look at a few of the programs. Here's the Atom text editor. And this is a nice little editor. It works with C, C++. I think it does Java, HTML, I think Go, Python. I mean, it supports everything. And there's plugins to extend its functionality. It's just a great program. IntelliJ is a development environment for Java. Visual Studio we talked about. Just to show you the terminal, I had it up here in my other window. One of the things that I really like to do, or I find I have to do a lot, is work on other systems. So like other servers. And in the case of my system here, sometimes I might be connecting to my website. So I have a website, BellBoz TV, which is at bellboz.tv. And if I want to connect to that server, I can just type BellBoz TV, and I've already got a little script that automates the secure login. And you can see I just logged in. No need to put in a username. No need to put a password because I'm using the secure shell with uses keys and stuff that it's too complex to probably describe. But without having my private key, you can't log into my servers. And only I have that private key. So it'd be very hard because there's no username passwords to log in. But now I'm on this is the command line for my bellboz.tv web server, which is off in the cloud. Now I can hit Control-D, log back out, and maybe I want to log into my A8 printer here in the house that has a Raspberry Pi. So this is logged into the Raspberry Pi that is running Octoprint, which is a program that handles printing the print jobs to the printer for me. And I can Control-D out of that, and I can log into my CR10, which is another printer with a Raspberry Pi on it. Very easy to jump to systems. Maybe I want to work on, let's see, what would I do? What do I want to do? Oh, I'm doing the wrong command there. We'll go to Linux and WAD tools. So let me do this. Clean DOS, make clean Linux. So this was a program I wrote for my back before I ever even streamed or did YouTube videos. But I'm a big console retro gaming fan, and I had an Atari Jaguar, and I wrote some tools to edit the WAD files, which is the levels and everything, the art, the music, the maps, you name it, sound effects for Doom, which uses the WAD files. And Doom was created by John Carmack and others at id. He's kind of the genius programmer at id. And he actually developed the Jaguar version. But the Jaguar version doesn't run on the same hardware as the PCs. Back then, PCs ran 386s and 486s when Doom first came out. So he had to really change because the Jaguar had multiple processors, but none of them were 386, 486. They were totally different style architectures. The main kind of like processor that really booted this Jaguar up was a 68000 from Motorola. So he developed and had to make some changes to the WAD format to work on these other architectures. So I wrote these tools to be able to edit the WAD files so we can make our own maps and such for the Jaguar. Now, I was developing this on Linux, and I think at the time I was running Linux almost exclusively. I didn't even have Windows installed on my development system. But some of the people who were working with me to do the art and sound and stuff, they were all Windows users. So what I did is I would type make DOS. Now you're going to see some errors because this was written probably back in 2000-ish, early 2000, like 2000. And the new compilers have been updated since I wrote this, so there's going to be a few warnings about some things that wouldn't have come up back then. But I can type make DOS, and I just made the DOS versions. And I can type make Linux, and I just made the Linux versions. These warnings here are what I'm talking about. The programs are still valid. And if I go to the bin folder and I look at Linux, okay, maybe I didn't code. Oh, I'm typing the wrong directory. There's the Linux versions of my tools. And then if I do ls bin DOS, I say DOS, but this was really Windows/DOS. Everybody was running Windows back then. So here you can see the same tools, but Windows versions and Linux versions all dated today, right when I did it. I built them fresh. So what I did is I also had a command in my make file that I could do, like make Dropbox, or I forget what I called it, or make install. And it would archive these Windows versions into one zip, and it would copy that to my Dropbox folder, and then Dropbox would sync it, and I was sharing that Dropbox folder with the people helping me. So just by building the tools and hitting the make install or whatever I had it set up to be, they would all get the most recent versions updated of my tools, and they could unzip them and put them on their system and work. So it was a really great environment for back then, especially working with some people who weren't tech heads. They were art guys and sound guys. They were not the programmers. So that's really cool. But I mean, from a development environment, Linux is so great. So we talked about a lot of the different programs. Let's get into one of the biggest shortcomings for Linux. And one of them is gaming. Now, you can run Steam, which we already did. And if I go into here to the store, we can look at games. Like right now, this game here just came out, Dawn of Man. I can click it, and if you scroll down, you can usually see what system requirements the game has. So you can see this game works on Windows and Mac OS, but it does not run on Linux natively. We can look at a game like Portal, and let's go to Portal 2 here, and we can scroll down, and you can see, did I pass it? Yeah. Windows, Mac, and it even defaults to the Steam page. This one works on Steam OS, which is basically Linux or Linux. So, I mean, they're the same thing, but Valve kind of came out with Steam OS. So this one's a native one, but you're going to find that a lot of your games don't work on Linux. There's just not native support, but that doesn't mean you can't run them. There's a great website and an application called Lutris, and this one helps you run games on your Linux system that maybe don't work on it. It's got an ability to search a database. So let's just search for Overwatch. They're showing it on there. This is a game that's Windows only, but if we click it, we can see here they say it works. It's a gold version game, works flawlessly with some minor tweaking. So it doesn't work perfectly, but it says for graphic cards and drivers with 3.396 and newer, blah, 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 it'll work beautifully. But what's great is it's got a button here. You install the Lutris software, which I'll load up in a second. And then if you click install, it automatically installs it either through Battle.net, through Steam, through GOG. It launches the installer, and it does any tweaks and things you might need to run it. A little trick here I'll show you. Alt-space brings up this menu at the top, and you can type in the name of different programs. And if you've installed it, it'll show up there. And you can see Lutris. I'll click it. Here's the Lutris app. It's not the most beautiful app in the world, but you can see it shows up. Now, it took a second there to pop up because I got like almost 2,000 games. I probably got like 1,800 on Steam, and then I've got I don't know how many on GOG, and then whatever I've already got installed. But you can see here like what's installed on Linux. I'm not sure why there's multiples. I don't know if it's just because every time I run this, it's glitching and like putting them in twice. I don't know if I like rerun this, if these will be in there 4 times. And then if I click Steam, you can see I've installed the Binding of Isaac. And then if you've installed anything through Wine, it'll show up here. And you can link your GOG account and your Steam account so that when you come here, it shows you everything. And best thing is just go to their website here and search, because like you can find out, a lot of people are going to be like, can I play my favorite game, not my favorite game, but can I play Fortnite, which is a Windows only game. And you can see here, garbage, not playable. And the reason is it uses easy anti-cheat and BattleEye, and sadly, those things do not work under the emulation, which are compatibility layers that Wine uses. So you can try to install it, but it's not going to work. Same thing with Apex. It has almost the exact same issues. Some games will not work. Now, there's other ones that are like big titles. Like if we go to Grand Theft Auto 5, Windows only, you can see it says Platinum installs and runs flawlessly. So you can play Grand Theft Auto 5 with no problem, which is really nice to see happen. So you can search in here just to see if the games you want to play work. And if you look at their website, I mean, League of Legends works, Overwatch works, The Witcher Wild Hunt works, Warframe, Battlefield 5, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft. You know, those just to name a few of the big ones. So you're going to find a lot of titles work, and using this Lutris allows you to run a lot of Windows games even though you're on Linux. It's not perfect, and if you play some of those competitive games that are played online like Fortnite, Apex, you're going to have a bad day, at least right now. Games like CSGO don't have a problem because they have a native Linux version. So that is pretty much one of the big issues that a lot of Windows users will have. If you're a Linux or a Mac user, you probably will have better game compatibility on Linux. So it's almost a no-brainer if you're a Mac user to want to try to run Linux for gaming. I know they're trying to have the same levels of emulation and stuff and compatibility layers on the Mac, but I don't know if it'll be as good. And then the other kind of areas are things like Photoshop, Premiere Elements, and Final Cut Pro. You have equivalent programs, but some people need Photoshop. They can't run the GIMP or other apps. They must have Photoshop. Some people have to be able to edit with Premiere, the full version, or maybe Elements, or they need Final Cut Pro on their Mac. You're not going to run those apps on Linux, at least not right now. You can run equivalents like Kdenlive's an equivalent to, say, Premiere. It's going to come up on my other monitor, I think, because that's where I last used it. But let me bring it over here. This is your standard editor. I'm going to try to use this to make this video. If I can't, I'll have a pop-up saying, hey, I had issues and I had to use my Windows system. But you put your scrubbing here. You put your assets here. You got your fades and transitions and different things here. You got your timeline down here for all the different tracks. And you can see it defaults to a 29.97 frames per second. But I'm going to go in here and just say I want a 1080p 60. Boom. And that would be what I usually use for my YouTube videos. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed out on. I think that's pretty much it. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up, hit that bell to be notified when I do any more videos. You can, if you want to support the channel, I have the Patreon, and I also have the join button on here now where you can become a supporter on YouTube. I think it's $4.99 a month. You can also, if you wish, subscribe over my Twitch. I don't stream very often over there, but some people still subscribe over there because they prefer, you know, they're like Twitch stalwarts. They don't really watch a ton of YouTube all the time, but they'd rather just stick with Twitch. But if you sub on Twitch, if you're a patron, or you join to be a supporter here on YouTube, any of those three categories, whenever I do each first of the month or right around the first of the month, I'm going to put out an exclusive video just for the patrons, the Twitch subs, or the YouTube supporters. And also what I plan on doing in the coming months is some behind the scenes stories about the crew, like things that happen, some of the highlights, the lowlights, you name it. And in the future also some unreleased videos of the crew, maps that maybe things went wrong or bad things happened. There's a video that in DayZ where Piper told me I could never air it, where she'd kill me. Well, challenge accepted. It's going to get released at some point. I don't want to do it right now because obviously there's very few supporters on YouTube and patrons and Twitch and all that. So I want to kind of wait until that builds up a little bit, but there'll still be content every first of the month. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Comments in the description if you want to ask questions, give feedback, certain other things you'd like to see. Catch you guys later. What's that? What? Hey, if you like the video, hit that subscribe button, those thumbs ups, comment in the video, you don't like it, that's fine too. And if you want to support the Patreon so that we can do more projects, there's a link in the description of the video.